We are fresh off a holiday weekend, and that usually means stress for most women. In today's episode of the Midlife by Design pod, I'm talking about stress. Even when you don't think you're stressed, what are the hidden ways that might actually be stressing your body? We'll talk about how this is keeping you up at night, anybody losing sleep out there, and more importantly, what to do about it. If you're loving this pod, remember to hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. Thank you so much. I am your host, Lori Lisa, human design teacher and midlife coach, here to help you use human design to shed the shoulds and be who you came here to be. Let's dive in. Hello, beauty, and welcome back to Midlife by Design. I have a short episode for you today related to stress, specifically hidden stress or stress that we don't necessarily identify, and how it's waking us up at night. So wondering if any of you out there have experienced the classic 3 a.m. wake up, or maybe multiple times waking up at night and feeling like anxious, like you wake up from this beautiful sleep and all of a sudden your brain is going 100 miles an hour and you're thinking about all of the things that you forgot to do or that you're doing tomorrow or whatever, just fill in the blank, random shit, right? And what I think is happening, at least according to the research that I have done, is that these awakenings are due to cortisol spikes. And cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. So I want to talk today about stress and just this idea that, maybe you might be more stressed out than you think, and you're not necessarily thinking that you're stressed, or you think like you've got everything together, but you're not realizing that your body is actually trying to tell you something through these nighttime wake ups. So, as you know, hormonal fluctuations during perimenopause, those can heighten the body's stress response in and of themselves. And remember, during perimenopause, you've got hormone spikes where your body is slowly, over this period of time, 10-ish years or so, declining its ability and its production of estrogen, right? But it doesn't just go in this like lovely decline, like down in a straight line down a hill. It's more like spike, drop, spike, drop, spike, drop. And all of those spikes and drops are in a downward motion over time. And what can happen is that in combination with other stressors can elevate our cortisol levels. And at night, we end up like having disrupted sleep patterns, and we just can't sleep well through the night because we are woken up in the middle of the night with these cortisol spikes, and we end up feeling like we're exhausted, but we're also wired simultaneously. And it can be a really hard piece of perimenopause. So what I wanted to talk about today was how some of the stressors that we have in our lives can be so normalized, so deeply normalized that we don't actually recognize their cumulative impact. We don't recognize that these everyday stressors are adding up to something that is negatively affecting our physical body. So, some of the things that I wanted you to consider today are the following. And as you listen to this list, I want you to just think about, how often do these pop up in your day to day? Do you experience these on the daily? Do you experience these once within the week, et cetera, et cetera? And the reason I want you to do that is to just get a sense of like, oh, okay, this is actually a stressor. It's not just a normal like thing. It's not something that I should be kind of sweeping under the rug. It's something that I need to become more aware of because it is impacting my life. And how I'm noticing it is when I wake up at night. This is my body trying to talk to me. So, one example is when we chronically overcommit to things and cannot say no. So, especially, I'm talking to you, non sacrals. I'm talking to you, undefined hearts. I'm talking to you, undefined solar plexuses. These things, when we have an inability to say no, to set boundaries, that causes stress on us. So that's one example. Another example is emotional labor, which I've talked a little bit before about. And this is something like managing family dynamics. We just came off a holiday weekend, right? So planning menus. How many of you planned the menu for yesterday if you had an Easter dinner? How many of you planned what needed to get done around the house in order to prep for people to come over, or what needed to get done in order for you to prep to go to somebody else's house? Did you decorate for the holiday? Other examples are birthdays, or if you have to leave instructions for the people you live with, your partner, your kids, whomever, how to take care of the animals, how to, wash the laundry, how to XYZ. Like, what are the kinds of things that you keep in your head as sort of the CEO of the household that are emotional labor? It's like you are holding on to those pieces in your head and in your heart in order for others to feel good, to feel cared for. That is emotional labor. So that's another example of a stressor, especially when it tips the balance and those responsibilities aren't shared. Another example could be anything that's an internalized should. What are you shoulding all over yourself about? Like, oh, I shouldn't have this to eat today because that would not, whatever, be in alignment with what I'm hoping to do for my body. Or should I go to this gathering with my friends? My friends want me to, go out to celebrate their birthday tonight, and I'm feeling really exhausted, but I feel like I should go. Should I stay in this job that's sucking the life out of me? Where are you shoulding all over yourself in your life? That's the third example. Another example, heavier, maybe a little more of the classic stressor that you might think of when you think of stress, would be things like unprocessed past traumas. So things that you've just been carrying around for a long time. So what haven't you dealt with yet? And how often are thoughts about that thing coming up in your life? Are you worrying? Are you spending time on things that happened in the past and holding on to them and holding on to potentially negative or difficult, what we think of as more difficult feelings around them? Are you holding on to that and carrying it with you on a day-to-day basis? That is definitely a stressor. Another example would be a physical stressor. So, in this case, think of things like poor nutrition, or when you're not moving your body, or you're not physically taking care of your physical vessel, that's actually causing stress on your body. So, for example, I know that a lot of women in midlife, especially Americans, develop an allergy or an intolerance to gluten. and how much are you respecting your body's needs to clear that out? And then how often are you just saying, fuck it, I'll just have the piece of bread, or it's inconvenient in this moment for me to avoid gluten, so I'm just going to do it. Um, Alternatively, maybe it's something like alcohol. The older we get, the less ability we have to process alcohol, in terms of just how our body processes it and how different it is than when we are young. So, how often are you putting that into your body and just asking a little bit more of your body, in terms of what it needs to do for you? Same with that, like sedentary lifestyle. How often are you moving your body in order to take care of it? So, those are all kind of examples of stressors. And I feel like I'm remembering going to my naturopath a few years ago when I was really struggling with some perimenopause symptoms, and waking up in the middle of the night was definitely one of them. And I was frustrated because I felt like I was doing all the right things. And we did some testing, and eventually, what she came back and told me was like, "You're too stressed out." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I wish at the time I had had some examples of like what she might have been talking about, because I didn't feel like I was stressed out. But if I had looked at this list, I think it would have been like, oh, right. Okay. And honestly, when you think about the list that I just gave you, the overcommitment, the ability, the non-ability to say no, inability, sorry, words, the emotional labor, the internalized shoulds, the unprocessed past traumas, the physical stressors. Like a lot of that feels just like normal life, right? For a perimenopausal woman. And I guess my message here is that normal, quote, life for a perimenopausal woman is wreaking havoc on us. And so it's up to us to start setting boundaries and saying, no, fuck this. This is not okay. This is a wake up call from my body, and I need to start doing things differently. So I want you to start seeing these nighttime wakings as a message from your body, right? It kind of makes me laugh actually about how intelligent our body is, because it's probably giving you plenty of signals throughout the day that you're totally just ignoring. And so when you're sleeping at night, the body's like, oh, you think you're going to get a nice little night's sleep here? You think you're going to like, ooh, lay down and relax and be all cozy in your bed and all like chill? Nope. No, we going to wake you up, bitch, because you have not been listening. So it's literally a wake up, right? There are no coincidences. So the fact that your body is literally waking you up is literal and metaphorical. And like, listen, you need to listen to me. Something needs to change. So here are some practices. 5 line coming in for you for tuning into your body's signals, because that is, as you know, always the first step to change: awareness. So, number one, try doing a body scan. You can do this morning, you can do this like first thing you wake up, or just as you're going to bed. It's a great routine. But thinking about just taking a couple of minutes to mentally scan your whole body from head to toe and just notice. Where are you feeling tension? Where do you feel pain? Where do you feel numbness? Where any kind of sensation that's happening in your body? And then ask, what might this sensation be trying to tell me? What might the message be here? That's it. And just listen for an answer. Try to intuit an answer. You know, you know what the answer is. But if it's not coming, don't beat yourself up about it. Just the whole act of just doing that body scan is such a gift for yourself because you're paying attention to your physical vessel. Okay. Second thing, track symptoms and then try to match them to emotional states. So, what I mean by this is think about keeping, if you love to journal, this would be a great exercise for you to do, where you start to track physical symptoms. So, maybe it's night sweats, maybe it's just waking up at night, maybe it's headaches, maybe it's brain fog. And then also track your emotional states. You can get very specific and track like moods throughout the day, or you can, start a little bit more broadly and just track your general mood for today, for example. I would use the feelings wheel to get really specific about it. I will drop a link in the show notes about that. And then start to look for patterns that emerge that will show you potential triggers for for stress, for things that feel stressful to you. Because you may find that you're able to start to track that kind of thing when you match up your physical symptoms with your emotional state. It's like, oh, okay, I had a hot flash right when I started to have an argument with my son, for example. Hmm, okay, that's interesting information. So, what was my body trying to tell me in that moment? How can I maybe support myself better in a situation like that? Another thing to try would be a before and after check. So, what I mean by that is, say you have a meeting that's coming up and you're feeling like a little unsure about it, a little stressed out about it, do a little check in with your body right before the meeting. How are you feeling? Do that body scan thing. You can even do a 30-second body scan. What's my body telling me? How's my breathing? Go into the meeting, rock it like you know you can, come out of it, and then do the same thing. Do a quick little scan, 30-second scan. How am I feeling now? How's my body feeling? What's it telling me? How's my breathing? What is the difference? Because you're getting feedback here from your nervous system, right? And think about, what is it telling you? How does it communicate to you whether something feels energizing or draining, for example? Does it light you up or does it just suck the life out of you? So, doing that before and after check can also be a super helpful tip for starting to tune in. Another example would be practice pausing before responding. So, we've talked about this before, I think, on the pod, this idea of when you are having a conversation with somebody, maybe it's starting to get heated. First thing you want to do is notice, okay, things are starting to get heated. Second thing you want to do is acknowledge, how are you feeling? How might the other person, how are you perceiving what's happening with the other person? Acknowledging how you are feeling. The third step is to thank that feeling because it is information for you. It is helping you to communicate. And the last thing is to release. So let go of the challenging piece in terms of the feeling. Remember that emotions take 90 seconds to feel from start to finish. And humans suffer because we keep playing it on replay over and over and over again. So release it after you felt through it completely. So when you're feeling this pressure to answer something or maybe to fix something or to decide something when you're not ready to decide, hit the pause button. Go through these steps. Notice if your heart is racing. Notice if your breath is shortening. Notice if your jaw is tightening. Notice if your butt cheeks are tightening. Like, what is happening in your body? Where is the pressure coming from? I would also encourage you to consider your head and your root center, right? Because those are both pressure centers. And especially if they're undefined, how might you be taking on pressure from the outside world, from the person that you're in this heated argument with or heated conversation, for example? And how might it be pulling you into your not self, out of alignment? That pause can give you so much information and clarity. All right. Another tip to try to get back into your body, to get connected with it, is movement, especially intuitive movement. So, I'm going to get dancing into the pod whenever I possibly can, but highly recommending that you dance, walk, stretch, skip, hop, jump, however you want to move your body, just making time during the week to be able to do this and doing it in a way that is unstructured. Just allow your body to move intuitively. This is such a beautiful way to honor your body. And as you're moving, considering what emotions are just coming up without even having any sort of goal to this movement or anything, but just observing like what's coming up in your body. Because potentially your body may be holding some messages that it communicates to you during this very free-flowing movement. All right, two more. Restlessness, thinking about restlessness as insight. So I mentioned this earlier, but when we were talking about sleeping, when you're waking up at 3 a.m., 3 a.m. seems to be the time. I don't know why, right? I've seen some beautiful moons at 3 a.m. So grateful for that. And also remembering that this restlessness at night is our body asking for some attention. So one of the things that you could do is, since you have these racing thoughts, instead of just laying there and like trying to think, oh, I gotta get back to sleep, I gotta blah, blah, blah. How about just surrendering? Take out your journal and just write them all down, get them all out, and then try going back to sleep. That could potentially help you, just that physical action of putting pen to paper, getting the words and the thoughts down on paper, and then helping yourself to sort of, you don't even necessarily have to process. Maybe it's processing that comes out, but it might just be a total brain dump, and maybe that's what your body needed. And then you're done. All right. And the last thing, which we've definitely talked about on this pod before, and I hope is a helpful reminder, especially for our generators and manifesting generators, is using those sacral sounds. And actually, anybody who has a defined throat, so could be manifestors or projectors as well, uh, just using your voice, So if it's generators or MGs, using the using those sounds to help you with your connection to your body. If you're a manifestor or projector, then, just using your voice to speak your thoughts and speak your hopes and dreams into existence, even to speak your feelings, like what's going on in your body, out, to hear the sounds of what you're saying, to hear the resonance in your voice. This would be so helpful for you. So those are a few different ways, like specific ways to listen to your body. And then in terms of managing stress, I'm just going to revisit kind of the typical things here for managing stress. But again, I want you to connect them to those maybe examples that you didn't necessarily think of as typical stressors. So one idea is to have a calming bedtime routine, ditch the screens an hour before bed, read a book, do some journaling, put some essential oils on, do like a nice little body massage, something that helps you connect to your body and really start to tune in your brain to signal that it's time to rest. Another thing to do, deep breathing, meditation is a beautiful way to reduce cortisol levels, really, really focusing on meditation, even if you can just do it for like 2 minutes a day. It's so much better than not doing it at all. Encouraging you to set boundaries, manage commitments. Don't overcommit. The trick here, obviously, is to reduce overwhelm, but it's also to notice when you are feeling overwhelmed. And don't judge yourself if you're feeling overwhelmed and you don't feel like you're doing like half the things that you did when you were 30. You're not 30. So don't judging yourself is just another added layer of stress, right? So I'm encouraging you to set those boundaries, respond to how you're feeling in the now, because you only ever have now, right? This moment. Physical activity, of course, is a beautiful way to regulate your stress hormones, to just nurture your body. And then the last thing would be seeking support, talking to somebody, talking to your friends who are going through it, just bouncing ideas off one another, working with a coach, somebody who can help you to be a mirror and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you considered this? And also help you to establish boundaries and then hold yourself to them. Sometimes having an accountability buddy can be a game changer for, meeting the goals that you want and making significant change in your life. So, quickie episode today. Just wanting to help you understand there are many different ways that stress can play out in our lives. And most of the time, I think that we are just calling it normal, real life. And this is an invitation to reconsider that. Maybe it's not normal. Maybe the things that you're normalizing are things that you don't need to be doing. And maybe it's actually time for you to set some boundaries and start saying no to some things. So I am encouraging you to do that. You know that it is my mission to support midlife women in perimenopause. And I want you to shed the shoulds, right? I want you to kick those to the curb and start being who you came here to be. So the last thing I wanted to say was I have created a perimenopause survival guide for you, and I am so freaking pumped about it. There are so many juicy tidbits there for you. It's coming soon. I hope it'll be out this week, but I want you to keep an eye out for it. I just have some tech stuff that I need to iron out. So as soon as I'm done with that, it will be available for download, and you'll just enter in your birth chart information and it'll be personalized to you. So I hope that you find it is a beautiful support to help you. So that's it for today's episode, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Midlife by Design. It truly means so much to me that you are here and listening to me and to what I have to share with you in regards to human design and making our way through this messy midlife phase that is also our beautiful wild woman phase. So please keep your eye out for the perimenopause survival guide. My hope is that it will be out this week, and I am so excited to get it to you. It will be dropping soon, and it's got some practical ideas to support you in this phase where implementing even just one of them is going to be enough to shift the needle for you. I also wanted to mention that I have 2 one-to-one coaching spots available for the spring. So if you are interested, apply now. I will put the link in the show notes with the application, which basically just tells me a little bit about you. And then I'll be in touch via email to discuss details and see if it's a good fit for us. Now I am sending you strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.